So there are some reasons. Now, at the start of the seminar, I said I'm going to give you 3 strategies to help improve your sleep. Here they come. These are the things I want you to try tonight. You might like to try tonight. And they're all designed to reduce your breathing at night naturally. Because guess what? I'm going to tell you that the breathing rate is the cause of your problems at sleep. And the first strategy to reduce your breathing at night involves posture. Now, people with asthma or sinus conditions or know anybody with may be familiar with this, but when we lie down, the further we lie down, the flatter we are, the harder and heavier we breathe. The more upright we are, the gentler and less we breathe, just naturally, okay? Anybody who's ever had any asthma or an attack, you know, an asthmatic, if they've got a bad attack and they can't breathe, they don't go to bed, you don't go and lie down. It makes you worse. Often you get it at night. They have to prop themselves up, prop themselves up. So, the first strategy is don't lie flat when you sleep tonight. Sleep standing up like this. I'm joking. Okay. Get a bit of elevation, okay? So don't lie flat. Get yourself a pillow. If you've already got a pillow, you might want to try 2. Or just have them overlap like that. Put a shoulder on the bottom one and a head on the top one. Don't give yourself a stiff neck. If you've got 2, you might want to taper 3, but try not to give yourself a stiff neck, because if you get pain, your heart rate increases and your breathing increases, okay, apart from the discomfort. Now, what we suggest to some people who are doing the course for a short period of time, you might want to elevate the bed on a few bricks or yellow pages. At the bottom of the head of the bed, just to elevate, give it a bit of incline. Don't have to change your pillows that way, okay, and you get a bit of incline. Now, however, if you sleep with a partner, that involves negotiation, which could be stressful, of course, couldn't it? Okay? All right. So, for a short period of time. Second strategy to reduce your breathing tonight is to breathe in the correct position. Sleep in the correct position to reduce your breathing. And the correct position is on your left-hand side. The order of preference is your left side, your right side, your stomach, and a long last is on your back. Whatever you do, try and stay off your back if you can. When we're on our back, all our internal organs crush our breathing pump, the diaphragm, thus making it harder work and heavier breathing. Or worse still, when we're on our back, almost automatically our breathing increases because our mouth comes open and the volume of our breathing goes way up. Now, left side's better than your right because your heart is actually on your left-hand side. And when you lie on your left, everything fits together better. Your heart doesn't work as much. Whatever your heart does is what your breathing does. On the right, it hangs slightly, so it works a bit harder. But it doesn't really matter. Left, right, stomach, it doesn't matter. Just try and stay off your back. Second strategy. Third strategy, now, you know, don't you, that people, not you, snore louder, not you, snore louder when they're on their back, don't they? Okay? All right, so the third strategy to improve our breathing, or to try and get some improvement by reducing our breathing tonight, is to breathe through the organ designed for breathing. Breathe through our nose at night. But this can be a challenge, because breathing is one of those things that's actually automatic. And we have control over our breathing when we're thinking about it and when we're awake. But when we're not thinking about our breathing or we're asleep, we don't have control. We breathe the way we've come to breathe over the years, and that's the problem. But what you can do tonight to give yourself the chance of a bit of improvement is get your nose as clear as you can before you go to bed tonight with that exercise. Breathe out, hold your breath for as long as you can a few times. Keep your mouth closed, get it as clear as you can. Now, a human breathes between 25,000 and 30,000 times during a 24-hour period, they tell us. It's a lot of breathing, isn't it? Most people like to sleep between 4 hours and as much as 10 or 12 hours. 12? No, that's a bit too much. 8 to 10 hours maybe even. Now, without doing the mathematics, that's a lot of breathing where you don't have control because you're asleep. And there's a huge difference between gently on your side, breathing through your nose, compared to being on your back hour after hour, like this, okay? Hour after hour after hour. And what happens when we breathe at this heavy, high rate is one of the first things that happens, we make a noise. And the noise of someone's breathing when they're asleep, I think, is called snoring. That's what it is. The noise of someone's breathing when they're asleep, yeah? Now, snoring is often the butt of many jokes. People laugh about snoring. People ring me up and say, oh, I snore the roof off. I snore like a pig, they say. Ha ha ha. But when you can't sleep in the same house with somebody, let alone the same bed, because of the noise of their snoring, it ceases to become a joke very quickly. And we've got people all over the country sleeping in separate rooms to their partners because of the noise of snoring. And people go to extraordinary lengths to try and overcome the snoring. And there are many, many things you can do. But I'll cut to the chase of the two most significant things. The two most serious things are people can have an operation. People can have the palate trimmed, the soft palate trimmed. Have you heard of this? Anyone had that operation done? Anyone know anybody that's had it done? Okay, it's not very pleasant. If you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, it's hard. If you push your tongue further back, it gets a bit floppy, and that's the thing that flaps in the breeze when you make that noise, okay? There's a uvula there. It's called lasering, trimming the soft palate. Let me tell you, it's very, very, very painful to get over. It takes ages to get over it. And you know what? Most people have no improvement at all, and they get very angry. And from the Buteyko perspective, it just advances your problems because it takes away some of the resistance to the over-breathing. And worse still, what happens is, why do you have a soft palate? Because when you eat and drink, it's got to help it go in the right direction. People have it all trimmed and they've got all these problems when they drink and eat and everything. It's a terrible thing. Don't let anybody convince you to do that. The second thing that you can do is you can get a mandible splint, a mouth device. Anyone heard of this? Anyone got one? Had it suggested, yeah? People heard of this? You heard of this? Okay, a few of you. This is like a mouth guard, top and bottom, moulded to your bite, to your teeth, okay, like a mouth with a hook in between. Now it's moulded to your teeth from a dentist, so we're not talking cheap, we're talking dollars. Dentist, dollars. They sort of go together, don't they? Dentist, dollars, okay? And so we're talking $1,200, maybe as much as $2,500 I've heard. And anyway, they've got a hook in between to lock it together and rubber bands involved. And it's called LJA, lower jaw advancement. You can look all this stuff up on the web. And what it has, when you put it in your mouth, it moves your lower jaw forward, advances your lower jaw. Okay? And what that does, by moving the lower jaw forward, it opens up the gap at the back. And so the vibration isn't as bad. So you can get an improvement in the noise of snoring. Okay? But what happens is, if people can use these things, it can reduce the noise of snoring. But what most people do, they get it home, they pay the money, they wear it for a couple of nights, and it's not very comfortable, let me tell you. Like this every night. And they get migraines, they get sore, okay, so they just don't wear it after a while. So they've done their money. Or they do use it, and they persist and persist. And then it might take 6 months, might take 12 months, might take 2 years, but after a while it doesn't work as well. You're starting to make more noise. And the reason is, guess what happens to your jaw? With all that pressure and the bands every night, hour after hour, your jaw actually moves. This is the way orthodontics work, the bands, yeah? And it moves, and so it drops at the back, and so you know what they do? They crank it up. I've had people that had it adjusted 3 times. One guy in Sydney did the course with me. He'd had his mandible device adjusted 3 times. He now spoke with a permanent lisp. And he did Buteyko because he was wondering when his lower jaw was going to hit the steering wheel. I mean, it's funny, but it's not funny. When you fix a problem with a symptomatic treatment, you can cause a new problem, which is worse than the first problem. There's only one way to safely overcome snoring. Let me first of all tell you what causes snoring. Here comes rocket science. You ready for rocket science? Snoring is caused by this, the heavy rate of breathing. Breathing heavily causes the noise of snoring. Look, I'll demonstrate. I'm breathing now. Can you hear me? Say no. Okay, watch. Here we go. I made noise, didn't I? And I did it through my nose. Okay? Imagine through your mouth. It's the heavy rate of breathing that causes the noise. Things get in the way. The only way to permanently overcome snoring is to retrain the way your body's come. There's nothing wrong with with breathing like this. There's nothing wrong with breathing heavily like that, providing it matches your activity. If you're running around the block, running up and down the stairs, you should be breathing hard. If you're at the gym. But this is at rest. Now at night when you're laying in your bed sleeping, you're not running around the block, are you? You should be breathing gently. But over the years we've come to breathe, and we breathe this heavy rate. Now, the only way to correct this is, the only way I know, is with the Buteyko method. The only way anybody knows. In fact, if you go to doctors and specialists say it's impossible to change your breathing, I beg to differ. This guy Buteyko worked out a way. It takes 5 sessions over 5 days. It starts by changing the way you breathe during the day, using your nose, clearing your nose, resetting things. And, you know, that's why we keep his name, this difficult name that I have to spell all the time and pronounce and all that sort of stuff, in honour of this gentleman who changed my life and so many other people's lives. And it takes 5 days, 5 sessions of 90 minutes. It starts by changing what you do during the day. The way you breathe during the day carries over to what you do at night. Starts by clearing your nose and breathing through your nose correctly, trying those things at night. And very quickly we have other techniques that take it even further. And we can get dramatic improvements with snoring. If you snored that loud last night, by tomorrow night I can have it down to either 30% or just about silent. That's how dramatic an improvement we can get. Now, you have to keep applying the method and the thing so it all becomes automatic, but that's how soon we can get some dramatic improvement, naturally. Now, you might say, well, what's the point of doing this great long course just for snoring? Everyone snores, don't they? How can you change that? Well, let me tell you, if you do the Buteyko course with me this week just for your snoring, you'll turn your life around from going directly in the direction of loud, noisy snoring, sleeping in separate rooms from your partners, dry mouth, feeling pretty lousy, yucky, more mucus and all that sort of stuff in the morning. And then it gets worse. So it starts to now affect the quality of your sleep. So now you're tired during the day as well, despite, you know, sleeping for hours. You're now sleepy, you can't concentrate, you're a danger to yourself and others on the roads. Plus, you're more, now you're off to the sleep clinic and the dollar's involved there, and then you've got a CPAP machine, replacement mask, and on for the rest of your life. You're more prone to colds, flu, hay fever, bronchitis, all these other conditions. You'll turn your life around to sleeping and breathing quietly. Maybe sleeping with your partner again, okay? Getting a better quality sleep. Never, ever, ever going near all that sleep clinic rigmarole stuff. More energy during the day. Better sporting performance. Less prone to colds, fever, hay fever, bronchitis, all these other respiratory conditions. More energy. Now, snoring leads to a more serious condition called sleep apnea. And apnea is a Greek word meaning pause. And pause is where we stop for a short period of time. People with sleep apnea stop breathing for a short period of time, many times during the night often. And often the person with sleep apnea isn't the first person to detect it. Often it's their partner. They hear all this noise during the night of snoring and suddenly there's silence. And there's a gasp. And there's a noise of snoring and there's silence. And there's a gasp. And they become concerned. My partner has stopped breathing at night. Are they going to start breathing? Start breathing, please. Fortunately, they always do. But the person with sleep apnea starts to feel it because they've got the quality of their sleep. It may not be sleep apnea, it might be just disturbed sleep. But the quality of your sleep, you're tired during the day. You know, 8 o'clock at night, you're looking for bed. 8 o'clock at night, it's way too early. You know? You're sleepy during the day, you struggle driving the car. I don't need to go on about sleep problems. I'm sure you're aware of them. So, if you trot off to the doctor says, oh, you snore at night, you're tired during the day, you've probably got sleep apnea. Didn't you know there's an epidemic of it going around in Australia? So they sign you up for a sleep clinic. We've got to study it. We'll study it and then we'll fix you. So you go off and have a sleep study. How many people have had a sleep study here? How many's had more than one? Okay. Who's anyone booked in for one? Hasn't had it yet? Okay, good. So we go off to a sleep clinic. Do you know, 10 years ago there was only one sleep clinic in Australia at the Epworth Hospital in Richmond. Now there's over 120. We have more per capita. We lead the world. But then, of course, there was a gentleman in Sydney that discovered a machine and started working for a company, and now they're the biggest company in the world in this area. So off we go to the sleep clinic. And here they measure our sleep. Oh, lots of science involved in sleep. So they wire you up, right? Because all the electrical charges that go on while you're sleeping in your brain. So they wire you up and they put stuff on your legs to measure any leg movements. And they measure your oxygen on your finger or here, okay? And they measure your sleep, if you can get to sleep with all that stuff on you. And then they measure the frequency and duration of any apnea. How often you stop breathing, for how long. And the other thing they measure is, I don't know whether you're aware, but they say there's 5 stages of sleep. That when we sleep, we cycle through these different stages. Lots of science involved in sleep. Stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 REM, rapid eye movement. And of course they say that the best quality sleep comes from the time you spend in the non-REM deep stages, in other words, 3 and 4 stage, okay? So then they give you a report, you've got mild, severe or very severe sleep apnea. Now if you've got mild and you're lucky, they might say stop smoking, lose a bit of weight. Anyone heard that? Yeah. So if someone does happen to have a few extra kilos and they lose a substantial amount of kilos, it can improve their sleep apnea. Have you heard that? Most people have something called obstructive sleep apnea, OSA. There is an obstruction in your airways, usually in your neck, where it blocks up. An obstruction. Stop breathing, breathing. Get the idea? Stop breathing. Air can't get through. Breathing. OSA. 97% of people with sleep apnea supposedly have OSA. There's a small proportion have central sleep apnea. And they say that some people have a combination. Now, what they used to offer people with this is an operation, chop out this bit, okay? Thankfully they don't do that anymore, all right, very rarely. So what they offer most people with severe or very severe sleep apnea is to use a CPAP machine, a constant positive air pressure, CPAP. How many people here are using a CPAP machine? Every night? When you can? Never. Okay. All right. What is the CPAP machine is a mask that fits over your nose with a tight seal. Okay, so no air can leak. There's a tube fitted to a pump that blows air under pressure into your nose as you breathe at night. They're called N-CPAP. They should be nasal. There are some full-face ones, but they should be nasal. Sometimes there's air tubes that go straight into your nasal passages. Now, and what happens is it blows air under pressure, constant positive air pressure. This is the way it works. Here's your body stopping breathing at night. You turn on the CPAP machine and get the idea? Constant all the time, positive, that direction. Air pressure holds your air tubes apart, stops it from blocking. Get it? Provides what they call a pneumatic splint. Okay? Dilation by air pressure, however you want to hear it. Now, here's our happy couple here with their his and her CPAP machines. Okay. Now, many people find these things very uncomfortable. They're obviously very intrusive at night. You know, they can make a noise, they can disturb partners, you can bump them, you get a blast of air. But there's new models coming out all the time. You can upgrade and buy new models, variable speed, humidifiers. They can be very, very expensive, let alone the replacement parts that you have to do. But if you can use them, they will stop the apnea occurring and allow you to get down to deeper sleep and you get a better quality sleep. Okay? But the problem is, people find that they are now dependent on a CPAP machine. Okay? They don't even pretend it's going to get better, but it just stops it happening and allows you to sleep. Now, and in fact what happens is in time, maybe 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, it doesn't work as well. They start to still get tired even using the CPAP machine. Often it gets torn off during the night. And the reason is, if it's not working as well after a while, it means it needs adjusting. There's one adjustment on a CPAP machine. It's the force of the air blowing at night. Guess which way it has to get adjusted in time? Only ever stronger, yeah. Do you know what your pressure is, sir? Do you know what your pressure is of your CPAP? About 9. That's good. Okay. Often they start at 4 to sometimes 4 to 6, but often 6 to 8. Then they go to 8 to 10, and then 10 to 12, and I've had people up in the 20s even. Very strong pressure. And the reason is, in time, the CPAP machine doesn't fix the problem, it just stops your body doing it against your body's defence. And in time, what happens, because it has to be turned up, just like these drugs here, they maintain that incorrect breathing, and so your body tries harder, and so you have to increase the pressure to force it open even more. Okay? This diagram I'm going to use to explain what really happens when you have sleep apnea. Now, this was published by Mary Birch, a Buteyko practitioner actually, and a registered nurse in Australian nursing about 2.5 years ago. There's a diagram in the middle. Now, if you want to get Mary's article with the case study that went through it, a lot more detail I recommend you do. You go to my website, it'll be on the front in red, buteykohealth.com.au. Go to Sleep Apnea and Snoring, you can download a 3-page PDF where you can read all about this. So here we got, it starts here with hyperventilation. This is the cause of sleep apnea, hyperventilation, overbreathing. Now, first of all, you're snoring. When the breathing gets worse, you get into this area here, okay? A lot of people with snoring, the first thing I'll ask them, are you tired during the day? If they say no, oh good, it's just early stages. But the breathing gets worse, you're into here. When you overbreathe like this, your body, hour after hour, loses this carbon dioxide. Quite a lot. The carbon dioxide, we blow it off, okay? There's no carbon dioxide in the air. Gases try to equalise. Now, carbon dioxide, look, if you don't get this, think of a bottle of Coke. Or ladies, think of a bottle of bubbly. Okay, a bottle of bubbly. The bubbles in the bubbly, or in the bubbles in the Coke, do you know what that is? It's carbon dioxide, right? Under pressure in the bottle. When you release the pressure by taking the lid off, you hear pfft, because the gases are trying to equalise, because you've exposed the gas under higher pressure to the atmosphere where there's virtually no pressure of carbon dioxide. If you leave the lid off, what happens to the Coke? It goes flat as, doesn't it? Okay? We're a bit like that. We're over-breathing incorrectly, our body loses the... We're not really bottles of Coke, but you get your idea, all right? But carbon dioxide is carbonic acid. Our body's chemistry goes in the wrong direction, you know, acid, alkaline, all that sort of stuff. The pH goes in the wrong direction. It's called respiratory alkalosis. You can look it up and read about it. It's a bit beyond this. The Bohr effect kicks in. Now, the Bohr effect states is when you've got low levels of carbon dioxide, our body's not getting the right amounts of oxygen. The oxygen's sticking in the blood, and our oxygen saturations, if you've had a sleep study, plummet. Now the body craves oxygen. You're breathing in a way that's causing you a lack of oxygen. You don't have the propensity to asthma to wake you up, so your body stops you breathing like that. It's your body's defence against the way you're breathing, blowing off all this carbon dioxide, resulting in a lack of oxygen. It's not a very nice defence, is it? Why is it a defence? Well, when you stop breathing, no gas can continue to be lost from your body to the atmosphere, yeah? No gas can exchange from your body to the atmosphere. But you're not dead. While you stop breathing, internal metabolism, respiration is still going on. External stop, but internal still going on. And of course, while you stop breathing, your body's always producing this carbon dioxide. So the level of carbon dioxide starts to rise because you're not losing it while you stop breathing. The pH goes back in the right direction. The Bohr effect kicks in again. You've got a bit more carbon dioxide now building up. So your body releases a bit more oxygen. And so you start breathing again. But whenever you hold your breath for any length of time, a long length of time, the next breath is a big breath. And it's a gasp. And it wakes you up. Or it almost wakes you up. It certainly prevents you from cycling down to these deeper quality levels of sleep. Okay? So what do? You start breathing in. And so this happens again. You lose the carbon dioxide. And then because of this very bad thing happens again, and so you stop breathing. And the carbon dioxide builds up, and then you... Round and round you go. All through the night. Look, the earlier you go to bed, breathing like this, the worse you're going to be tomorrow. The worse you're going to be tomorrow. This is very exhausting. This is hard work. To overcome sleep apnea, we have a very different approach. Instead of selling you an expensive, possibly uncomfortable mask to wear on your face for the rest of your life, keeping the condition at the same time, after the horse has bolted, we attack the cause by addressing the breathing, by retraining the way you breathe. Starts by changing the way you breathe during the day. Takes 5 sessions over 5, and very, very, very quickly your body starts to breathe more normally, your body's getting more oxygen, the apneas stop. You might go through a period of snoring, but that's overcome very quickly as well, and you can overcome it forever. If you are using a CPAP machine and you've used one last night, keep using it. I'm not telling anybody to stop using them. We treat it as prescribed medication, which it is, and we have a careful way of weaning you off and measuring your breathing. And then we have periods of time of observed sleep where you're sleeping, we start to wean you off without the machine, and then very quickly you can come off. 90% of people who are using a CPAP, even if you've been using it every night for years, 90% of people are safely free of the machine forever by Thursday this week. By Thursday, 90%. The remaining people who take longer, they might have multiple medical conditions, taking lots of medication for other conditions. The mask might be a full face, very high volume, can take them a little bit longer.